Thank you all. Thank you so all for being with us. Now, those that know the Rao family know that they are humble of lifestyle, quiet in their manner, but bold and daring in their generosity and faith in sharing that and their gifts with all of us. And that willingness to share now will grow exponentially to help others in a way that we've not realized before through the kind generosity. Leaders in philanthropy in our community. At this time, I'd like to ask Dr. and Mrs. Rao to come forward with her family to join us in the unveiling of the image of the St. Mary's Rao Outpatient Pavilion. Now, the actual sign is being unveiled above this. We're doing this in a ceremonial way so that we can properly recognize the entire Rao family.
Jessica, yeah, anything, Jessica. Thank you. Jessica.
Bishop. We'll ask Dr. Marsh and Bishop Schaffenberger to go on either side of the tripod. Bishop and Dr. Marsh, if you would do the unveiling for us, we would greatly appreciate that. Now we have the St. Mary's Healthcare Rao Outpatient Pavilion. And now it gives me great pleasure to invite up to the podium Dr. Govind Rao. Govind?
Thank you very much. Wait. I just want to tell you that I give the credit to all Amsterdamians and surrounding communities for helping us when we moved to this place 43 years ago. My kids were small, my sisters were wonderful, and in fact they gave me shelter. I'll never forget the favors that we had from everybody, all the Amsterdamians, and I owe them a lot. Now, I would like to thank, and really actually we're honored to name this facility as a Rao Outpatient Pavilion, and I would like to thank the Sisters of St. Joseph, Carandalet, and Board of Trustees of St. Mary's Hospital, and Board of Directors of the Foundation, and Ascension Health, and also St. Mary's Healthcare Leadership Team. And I also would like to thank, I know we already mentioned the names of my family members here, for helping me, my children and grandchildren, for their support and help. I never forget that too. That's a kind of source of inspiration for me and my wife. Now, back home, I'm from a middle-class family. My father was a teacher, and he strongly believed in education. And when cost of education in India is much, much less than here. In fact, from my graduation from medical school, I had to spend very little for the tuition, I had some scholarships and like that. Whereas here, most of my children, 3 children of mine who went to medical school here, and for each child I had to spend more than $500,000 just for education, room and board, for tuition. And I thank Lord that I was able to support them financially during their education, because I consider spending the money for education is an investment. Now, as everybody knows, that the cost of education is rising every year. At the same time, we have at least 1/3 of the US children live in poverty. I have seen children, even from the East, and so brilliant. They maintain 3.5 to 4 points grade average, and they attend the community college, and after that, when I tell them they have to pursue higher studies, they say, Dr. Rao, we can't, we are afraid to incur the loans. Now the student loans is the biggest hurdle for the children for education, and of course the cost of education also is more and more and more. Now in US, 40 million people have a monumental debt. Since the recession, for the student loans I mean, and since the recession from 2008 until 2014, the loans have increased by 84%. And in 2014 alone, the student loans amount to staggering 1.2 trillion years in time. And this is not acceptable. In contrast to this, in India, where the government and the schools, the volunteers help for education, and now I'm happy to say that India is exporting computer science software engineers all over the world. My sincere request to legislators and educators here is to come up with some plans to make education affordable without incurring any student loans. That will help us a lot for education. I appreciate that. Now, having said that, I just want from the wake, I just want to mention two things briefly. When I came to this country, my dad, of course, is the biggest advisor for me. He told me that you're going to be alone. He's not going to be with me here. But I'll tell you two things in the form of stories. He said, any project that you take, you will come across hurdles, and you have to face those hurdles, and to overcome those hurdles to be successful. He told me the form of the story. If permit me, I'll tell the story. It's a nice story. See, in India, we had a great philosopher called Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda. He had missions all over the world, in New York City, big cities. However, this gentleman was deadly afraid of monkeys. Now, in India, in the temples, if you go like churches and like that, we have a lot of monkeys. They hang around the temples and churches because when the people go to pray and offer the food to the Lord, they also offer the food to the monkeys. That's why they stand around there. Now, this gentleman one day, he came out of the temple with the food in his hands, and he saw the group of monkeys sitting there, and then he walked slowly away from the monkeys, and the monkeys started to follow him. And then he looked at the monkeys, then he started to walk a little faster. The monkeys started walking faster. Then he started to run. The monkeys started to run. And he ran faster and faster. He couldn't take any more. He was short of breath. And suddenly he hears the Lord's voice. He says, stop. And he stops. He says, turn around. He turns around. He says, look at the monkeys. He looks at the monkeys. Walk towards the monkeys. When he walks towards the monkeys run away. So these hurdles should not be hindrance for you to carry the project. This is my sister. I learned a lot. You know, everybody goes through hurdles. And the second thing he said was, no matter what you do, the three principles he said, do not misuse your powers, and family is very important, and whatever you do, be sincere, hardworking, honest, and be content with what you get. Again, he told me the form of the stories. Like in India, in olden days, we used to have priests, a lot of priests. You know, they pray a lot to achieve some powers. And this priest, one priest, he prays a lot, and then the Lord gets impressed. And then he says, okay, let me go and help the gentleman pay the thing a lot. Like we appear for boards, exams, and like that, we have to work hard and we get the degrees. So the Lord appears in front of him, and then the Lord says, I am impressed with your prayer. You can ask me whatever wish you want. And the priest says, whatever wish I want, would you like to grant? I said, yes, I would like to grant whatever wish you want. Then he says, priest says, ask the Lord, that grant me the power so that I can do anything that I want to do. Then the Lord thinks and he says, okay, I'll grant these powers to you if you use these powers only for the good purposes, not for the bad. And priest agrees, then it's okay. Then as we do continuing medical education, like he continues to pray for the Lord, and then one day, while he's praying, eyes closed, he suddenly hears a thud on his shoulder. And he looks on his shoulder and he finds a bird dropping. And he gets mad. I said, what is this? And then he looks around and he finds a bird on a tree. And looks at the bird with the angry eyes and burns the bird to ashes. Then suddenly he realizes he misused his powers. Then he looks for the witnesses, if anybody noticed me doing this, and he doesn't find anybody. Then he says, okay, after the priest, see the priests always, they never cook. They go to house, and when the people invite them, offer them food. And then he goes to a house and knocks on the door. He introduces himself, I'm so-and-so priest, I have these powers, you have to take care of me. And then he hears a voice back from inside the house, a lady's voice. Look, my husband, he just came from work, and my children came from school, and I have old parents to take care of it. I'll attend to their needs, then I'll help you. Then he gets perturbed. He said, what is this? I am so powerful, and this lady doesn't want to help me before the children. Then he knocks on the door harder. He says, do you know me, who I am? I have these powers, I can do anything I want. Then the lady's voice comes back. He says, I don't care who you are. My children are important, my parents are important, my husband is important. I have to attend to their needs first. Then he really gets mad. He bangs on the door very hard. Then door opens, and the lady looks in his eyes and says, you are the one that killed an innocent bird, didn't you? Then he realizes, oh my God, how did she know that? He takes a step back, and then he says, how did you know that? And she said, you really want to know how I knew this? Okay, I'll tell you. I want you to go to the main downtown. There's on the Success Street, there's a butcher shop. I want you to go and ask the butcher. He will tell you how I knew. Then now he slowly walks around the town. He finds the butcher shop. And then there he finds a big line of people. And the butcher is, as usual, is doing his job. He's weighing the meat, cutting the meat, and packing, and then getting the money. So the big line, now he won't dare come in front of the line because he realized that this doesn't work. So he stays behind, and when his turn comes, butcher looks at his eyes. He says, you are the one that killed the innocent bird. Now the moral of the story, my father said, was that never misuse power. Everybody will know. Now we have prime examples of Nixon and Clinton, you know. And number two, family is very important. And number three, whatever you do, hard work, be content, be sincere, and be happy. And this really helped me a lot. I tell the children, my grandchildren, good night.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Nixon, Clinton, it's equal opportunity, you notice that. Both sides of the aisle. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to invite up to the podium the Chairman of the Board of Trustees of St. Mary's Healthcare, Dr. Ronald Marsh.